paper can be technically strong, well-written, and still get rejected, sometimes without even reaching peer review process. And when that happens, researchers immediately assume that the problem is the quality of their work. In reality, rejections often have very little to do with quality and much more to do with strategy. In this video, I'll explain the most common reasons why good papers still get rejected, coming from an assistant professor who have published more than 20 research papers. Most rejections happen before reviewers ever see the paper. Editors make very fast decisions sometimes. They look at credibility, positioning, journal fit, and overall presentation. One factor that sometimes plays a role is the author's background or institution. When editors are less familiar with the authors or their institutions, they tend to be more cautious. It's a simple human psychology. This doesn't mean the research is weak. It means credibility signals matter. Another issue is presentation. If the formatting looks careless or the submission feels rushed or incomplete, it immediately affects the trust. Editors do not see this as a small detail. Especially editors of good high impact factor journals, they can see it as a signal of poor work. So your research, even before getting to peer review process, can be rejected purely on the presentation or poor formatting issues based on presentation signals. Second reason is scope mismatch. One of the biggest reasons good papers get rejected is simple journal mismatch. The topic may be related to the journal, but not truly aligned with its scope. It's a very common reason. And I will tell you how to avoid it. Editors are very strict about this one. If the alignment isn't obvious, the paper often won't move forward unless they are missing papers for a particular issue. If you're genuinely unsure about the fit, it's often better to clarify before submitting rather than hoping for the best. It's not about writing better, it's just about choosing correctly. Cover letter issues. Another underestimated reason is the cover letter. For editors, the cover letter is not a formality. That's the first thing that they read. It's a positioning statement. So cover letter allows the editor to find out what this paper is going to be and why they should even accept it for consideration. A generic or careless cover letter signals that this paper may not belong in that journal. In many cases, editors heavily rely on cover letter to decide whether a manuscript should even be considered. So it would be a pity if just based on the cover letter, your manuscript would not be even read. Another reason, peer review randomness. This is one of the most common reasons, I would say, that we get to witness. Even if a paper passes the editor's check and goes to peer review, rejection can still happen for reasons outside of your control. Reviewer mismatch happens very often. I've experienced this personally. So there are usually 3 peer review feedbacks that you get on your manuscript when you submit. And sometimes one of the reviewers can give a very, very different feedback from the other 2. In such cases, it's up to the editor which reviewers would matter for the editor's choice. For example, in my case, I remember one time I submitted a research paper and received 3 reviews, and one of them was only 1 line long. The reviewer simply wrote that the work was not interesting. Bluntly, while the other 2 reviewers gave a really, really good feedback. Whether it's interesting or not is typically decided by the editor. If the work is mainstream, if the work aligns with the journal scope, but the quality of work should be judged by the reviewer. So in that case, the reviewer probably was not the right fit for the paper or for the field. This doesn't reflect the quality of the research. So it reflects the review process, and sometimes just one of the 3 reviewers can give a very drastically different response than the other 2. And another time I had the case when the review out of 3, the 1 was negative and the editor decided towards that. So that happens as well. So what to do after rejection? If you strongly disagree with the rejection that you got, you can reach out to the editor and explain your reasoning. But because everyone is busy and editors tend to move on, you have 50-50 chance whether the editor will consider it or not. And also another downside that it takes time to write it up, to wait. Unless you're really interested in that journal, you may lose some time while waiting. But if you're under pressure, time pressure, it may be more wise to submit elsewhere rather than investing months contesting a decision. Again, it's a personal choice. If you feel really strong about the feedback and if you're really interested in proving the point, of course, go ahead with it and do go through the appeal process. But if you're okay with publishing in another research journal, which is in that area, then moving on would be wise. It's a personal choice, not a reflection of your ability. Overall, the most important thing to remember is this. Rejection is often about strategy, not quality. Many rejections are editorial, contextual, or simply procedural, or it could be due to the reviewer mismatch. So they are not a judgment on your intelligence, your competence, or your future as a researcher. Things happen, move on, or try another one. Especially early in an independent career, credibility signals matter, as I said, including co-authorship and positioning, which institution you're coming from, and so on. So this is how the system works. At least for now, the academic system. But if you're feeling stuck with publications or unsure what your next move should be, I've linked a free research planning workbook below. It's a calm way to think through your situation and clarify your next steps on how to submit the journal and write a manuscript. Understanding the system makes the process much less personal and much more manageable. Good luck, and I will see you in my next video.